Hi everybody, welcome back. Please like, subscribe, and share the video. And if you wouldn't mind, leave a comment down below. Nothing I say in this video, by the way, is financial advice. Never take financial advice from anybody on YouTube. All I can do is share with you what I know and what I do. And sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. But let's get into it. So the boys are at it again. Good old Donny Boy and Elon. And here's what's going on, just so you know. Now, if somebody in the comments down below wants to make the accusation that Elon is worried about his own companies and all he cares about is the $7,500 EV tax credit, you are dreaming. So go ahead and make that comment, and but I'll tell you right now, I'll warn you, be prepared. I will rip it to pieces. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Tesla stock this morning. It closed yesterday somewhere around, it was in the 20s, somewhere around 320, 325, 328. As of the making of this video, I think it's trading around 304 maybe. Yeah, sorry, not 204, 304. Now the threshold was 295. Yeah, 295. If it hit 295 or dropped below 295, many of us expected it would go all the way down to 260. That's the next catalyst, but that didn't happen. I actually bought some this morning. I got some at 293. And, you know, who knows? Hopefully that's the bottom. But it doesn't matter. I'll be buying it either way. I'll be buying it at any price. So the stock is down because of, first of all, Q2 deliveries, as you know, they're really bad. Robotaxi rolled out. It's doing good, but it's not getting, of course, media attention, which is exactly what he wanted. He didn't want that. Also, as of this morning, they changed the, this is interesting actually, they changed the Model Y annual percentage rate, ended yesterday on the 30th, and that was at 1.99% APR. And that went up today to 5.54%, I believe. Double check that for me, but I think it's 5.54%. Now, that doesn't sound like a company who's struggling. If they were struggling, it probably would have gone to 0% and they would have offered more incentives. Big difference between Tesla and the other car companies is because of robotaxi now and ride sharing, Tesla have a place to send their vehicles if they don't sell. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. Go ahead and comment on that too, and I'll rip it to pieces. Anyway, let's get back to the Elon Trump thing. Elon, of course, we know, backed Trump 1,000% when he was running for office. Trump promised a new day in America. He promised, what did he call it? The golden age of America. He was talking about crypto. He was talking about clean energy. He was talking about drill, baby, drill. He was talking about, you know, battling with China and making trade deals. Many of the trade deals didn't work out. Some did. Now, I'm not saying Trump is doing a bad job, but here's the problem. The big new bill, the big beautiful bill, I now call it the big bullshit bill. It's not going well. And I'm going to give you a few points here. If we don't generate twice, at minimum, twice the amount of energy that we currently have, we will lose to China. By the way, we're already losing to China. So go ahead, Trump. Take away the $7,500 EV tax credit, right? But if you prevent companies from getting the required materials in here to build that grid infrastructure, and build the backup grid in the form of batteries, you have just lost to China. You know all those announcements he made about how all these companies were going to come over to America and they were going to build these big factories and they were going to build chips and they were going to build AI and they were going to build all these robotic manufacturing companies and all this new, what he called new technology, the new world, the golden age of America. You need enormous amounts of power for that. We don't have enough power. The only way we can get that power is through a combination of things. And you can drill, baby, drill all you want till the cows come home. You're not going to drill enough oil. You're not going to provide enough coal. You're not going to provide enough natural gas alone to make that happen. This is a situation where you have to throw everything at it. That includes battery storage, which is extremely, extremely crucial to this. It includes that in order to have battery storage, you need the materials, at least temporarily, to come from China to build those batteries. And then you place those batteries, megapacks or whatever you want to call them, on the grid as a backup. You know how in California in the summer you lose power? When you have a backup system, that doesn't happen. So all these big factories that are going to suck up enormous amounts of energy like you have never imagined, they're not going to get built. They're not going to get built. The whole thing is going to fall apart. Who's building it? China. China are way ahead of us. Way ahead of us. And like I said, this has nothing to do with EVs, with Tesla, with his companies. What he is trying to say to you is, if we go down, of course he goes down, but if we go down, there's nowhere to go. Nowhere. So let's get back to the battery materials for a minute. I want you to try to imagine, you know, they tell you when you get on a plane, right? And they're giving you the safety speech at the beginning. And they'll tell you, you know, when the mask drops, right? When the oxygen mask drops, if you're traveling with small children or elderly people or people who, you know, people who are weak or they can't help themselves, the first thing you need to do is put your own mask on. Then you help the other person. Because the fact of the matter is, if you choke to death while you're trying to help that other person and you don't get their mask on because they're a child or they're an elderly person and they're fighting you on it, you both die. Those battery materials now are your mask. Now, Tesla and other companies are building lithium refinery plants here, but we're just not there yet. It's going to take time for us to be able to produce and refine enough lithium and other materials. And also, as you know, J.B. Straubel from Redwood Materials just announced that he's taking used EV batteries and he's turning them into battery backup power systems for the grid. Like, these guys are doing their best to make this happen. But if you crush that supply, China wins. The best hope that America has going forward is to control artificial intelligence and to beat China to AGI. If we lose that race, we are dead in the water. I laugh when people say, well, I'll just go to Europe. There's nowhere to go. If America fails, there's nowhere to go. And listen, this isn't anti-Trump. But sadly, Trump got to Washington and he did the unexpected. What's the unexpected? He became a politician. He's no different than anybody else there. We now have a one-party system. We've always had a one-party system, actually. You all know that. You had the Republicans and the Democrats, and then it was the Democrats and the Republicans. And every 4 years, these guys flip a coin. Now, I don't give a shit about that. I don't care who's in the White House. I don't care who your senator is, who your congressman is. What I care about is the simple fact that America has a business to run. And you're not going to run the business properly if you, number one, won't allow the innovators to dig us out of this basically depression that we're about to go into by building GDP, by building products, by building the next, infrastructure of the world, which is artificial intelligence, battery storage, right? Data, processing centers. If we don't allow them to do that, we're dead. We're dead in the water. I highly suggest at that point that you learn to speak Chinese, because they're well on their way to owning us. Well on their way. And somebody said to me yesterday, well, those Chinese are building crap cars. They're building crap infrastructure. Their DeepSeek is crap. It's not. They're not doing that anymore. China are not building crap anymore. They're taking our stuff. They used to copy it and make it cheap, knockoff. They're not doing that anymore. They're taking our stuff and they're making it better. And you know why they're doing it? Because the government are investing in it. They're not killing it. The government have created more clean, green energy than we have in the last 10 years. And yes, they're still building coal plants. And yes, they're still, desperate for fossil fuels. But they're way ahead of us on energy storage, energy backup. And if we're not careful, look, if you're NVIDIA right now, and you've promised the White House that you're going to build a big plant here, you're looking at what's going on with the big beautiful bill and you're saying, oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure I can do this. Jensen Huang has to be sitting there going, I know I made a promise to do this in America, but this has to get built. I have to find the people who are going to allow me to build this. And if I don't do that, I'm dead in the water. So, look, don't confuse the Elon Musk argument over the big beautiful bill with him caring about a $7,500 tax credit. That's not what this is about. This is a much, much bigger thing than that. And I know he refers to starting a third party. If this bill passes in its current form, he will start a third party, because we have got to get away from the one-party system. And please, don't put some stupid comment in the comments about the Democrats and the Republicans. They're the same party. We are operating now on a one-party system. And the guy who's in the White House now was the guy that was going to dig us out of that. He was the person that was going to change that. This is not about Elon Musk. This is about America. I had a conversation with my wife the other day. I'm like, I don't know how things are going to go here. But, we're in a position to where we could kind of set ourselves up maybe somewhere else at some point. It's not that I want to leave. I don't want to leave. But you have to do things to protect your family. And Elon Musk is doing the very same thing. He's looking at America, the greatest country on earth. And he's like, wait a second. Don't burn this thing to the ground just because you want to satisfy a few cronies. And just because people who are senators and Congress people who all they give a shit about is getting reelected, and they don't give a shit about the next 5 or 10 years, because they'll probably be dead by then. What are these people telling their grandkids? For God's sakes, wake up. If we don't start investing in our energy infrastructure, We are dead in the water. We're dead in the water. And then you're going to fire back and say, well, you're talking about Tesla failing, America failing, and you just bought the stock. Yeah, I did, because I still believe that there's a way out of this. But I'll tell you right now, I was on a Zoom call this morning with some other investors, and we talked and we said, okay, guys, what are we doing today? Are we buying the dip or what? And we don't, we buy independently. It's not like we pool money, but we compare notes. And, we all of us pretty much decided, we're like, well, if we're going down in flames, we might as well go down in style. If this gets fixed and the future is the way we hope it will be, then companies like Tesla will thrive. But if the shit hits the proverbial fan, nobody survives. At that point, it's funny. People are like, well, the guy with the swastika or whatever, it's so ridiculous. You don't understand. Ford and GM are gone also. Everything that you believe in is gone if this happens. You will be driving Chinese cars if this happens. And that's not because of Tesla. That's because America will be begging China to help them. We should never put ourselves in that position. And a one-party system, which is the demo, we need a name for the party. There's no parties. It's party. Can we just call them the Rep Dems or the Dem Reps? Whatever it is. Let's come up with a name, because they don't exist anymore. And Musk's goal, if this bill passes, he knows what's coming. If the bill passes, the only, maybe the last ditch effort is to form a third party, which will be called the America Party, or the American Party. I think it's America Party. And the entire focus of that will be to disrupt the midterm elections. And is that going to hurt Trump? Yeah, but you know what that's going to do? It's going to stop the checkbook. You get what's in. What happens then is you have what's called a lame duck period, where the president can't get anything done for the next 2 years. And then you hope that you build some kind of a structure, or you form some kind of a team who by the 28th election has an opportunity to right this ship that is about to hit an iceberg that's going to make the Titanic look like it hit a toothpick. I mean, we got to get this right. So I want you to stick around. Right after this, I utilized NVIDIA.ai to create a video that explains this, the whole energy thing and the materials and all that stuff, much better than I am. So do me a favor, stick around and watch that. It's coming up now.
The One Big Beautiful Bill, or ABBA, passed by the United States House of Representatives in May of 2025, significantly alters the clean energy landscape by rolling back many tax incentives established under the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Its impact on fostering a stable transition to clean energy generation and storage is, well, largely negative, according to multiple analyses. The bill prioritizes fossil fuels and nuclear energy while curtailing support for renewables like solar, wind, and battery storage. So, here's a detailed assessment of whether the bill fosters a stable move toward clean energy generation and storage, based on the information that's available right now. Battery storage, which is honestly critical for grid reliability and renewable integration, is heavily impacted by the House bill's restrictions on foreign components, especially given China's dominance in the battery supply chain. The Senate version, preserves some storage incentives until 2036, but the phase-out of solar and wind credits reduces the renewable generation that storage supports, which really undermines its role. According to a Center for Climate and Energy Solutions analysis, there could be as much as an 89% reduction in storage deployments by 2035 under the House bill, and that threatens grid reliability just as demand from AI and other technologies continues to grow. By reducing clean energy deployment, the bill increases reliance on fossil fuels like natural gas and coal, which honestly have higher generation costs. Energy Innovation estimates that household energy bills could rise by about $250 to $415 annually by 2035. The bill also risks $1.1 trillion in GDP losses by 2034 and around 830,000 job losses by 2030, mainly due to canceled clean energy projects and manufacturing facilities. Since the IRA's passage, $321 billion in private investment and 406,000 jobs have been created in clean energy. The ABA threatens to undo much of this progress. U.S. electricity demand is projected to grow by nearly 16% in just 4 years, driven by AI and data centers. Clean energy, especially solar and storage, is the fastest way to meet this demand, since new gas plants are likely to face delays until 2030 or even later. The bill's cuts could lead to energy shortages, potentially causing blackouts and really undermining U.S. competitiveness in AI and technology. Supporters, including the White House and some Republican lawmakers, argue the bill promotes American energy independence by reducing reliance on foreign, like Chinese components, and supporting domestic fossil fuels and nuclear power. They claim it eliminates green subsidies that distort markets, though critics point out that fossil fuel subsidies remain intact. The extension of the Clean Fuel Production Credit and support for nuclear and biofuels are framed as pragmatic steps toward energy security. Analysts argue the bill actually favors fossil fuels over cost-competitive renewables, which could increase emissions by up to 1 billion tons annually by 2035 and undermine climate goals. The rushed 60-day construction window and foreign entity restrictions are seen as unworkable, discouraging investment and innovation. The Senate Finance Committee's version, which was released in June 2025, mitigates some of the House's cuts by extending credits for nuclear, geothermal, hydropower, and storage until 2036, and by allowing solar and wind projects to claim reduced credits through 2028. However, it still phases out solar and wind incentives faster than the IRA's timeline, and honestly, the final bill's shape depends on Senate negotiations. Some Republican senators, like John Curtis and Lisa Murkowski, advocate for preserving clean energy incentives, but fiscal hawks and Trump's push for quick passage may really limit changes. The bill's passage in its current form is still pretty uncertain, as it faces opposition from clean energy advocates and even some GOP moderates. The ABA destabilizes the clean energy transition by abruptly repealing incentives that have driven $321 billion in investment and 406,000 jobs since 2022. The short construction window and foreign component restrictions, honestly, create a lot of uncertainty, deterring developers and investors. Solar and storage, which are the fastest and most cost-effective solutions for meeting rising demand, are disproportionately harmed. The bill's focus on biofuels and nuclear, while phasing out solar and wind, really aligns with fossil fuel interests rather than a balanced clean energy strategy. This risks higher costs and emissions, since renewables are actually cheaper to deploy than new gas or nuclear plants. By limiting access to Chinese components, the bill may, in the long term, bolster domestic manufacturing, but it creates short-term supply chain disruptions, especially for batteries. Without a robust domestic alternative, this could stall storage deployment that's critical for grid stability. The Senate's version offers some relief, but the partial phase-out of solar and wind credits and lack of consumer incentives still hinder a stable transition. The ABA, as passed by the House, just doesn't foster a stable move toward clean energy generation and storage. It significantly reduces incentives for solar, wind, and battery storage. These are key drivers of the clean energy transition, while favoring slower-to-deploy technologies like nuclear and biofuels. This risks higher energy costs, job losses, and energy shortages, especially as demand keeps growing. The Senate's modifications offer a bit of hope for storage and other technologies, but the bill's overall trajectory undermines the stability needed for a robust clean energy future. If passed without significant revisions, it could, cede U.S. leadership in clean energy to competitors like China, as critics warn. For updates on the Senate's progress or final provisions, you can check www.senate.gov or www.congress.gov.